Hello everyone, welcome to Under the Wing. I am your host Andrew Wingard, and I am extremely grateful that you are sharing your time with me today. I am excited that I get the opportunity to share with you the experiences and stories from all walks of life. Gather around and let's begin. Hello everyone, welcome to another episode of Under the Wing. I'm your host Andrew Wingard, and I got my dear friend with me, Coach Nathan Miklos, the head coach for the women's golf team at Youngstown State University. Appreciate you coming on with me today, Coach.
Yeah, happy to be here.
Good, man. So wait, you guys have a match coming up this upcoming week. Who do you guys have?
Yeah, we've got just a small 5-team invitational with Northern Kentucky, Niagara University, Teal, and Mount Union. So we're just really excited to get the season started on our home course. It's always a lot of fun,
Nice.
having that first one at home.
Yeah. Now where's the home course again?
Mill Creek. We're hosting Mill Creek Golf Course in Boardman on their north golf course there.
Nice, man. Now I know you guys had a couple studs, the past few years, and I believe one of your seniors still there, correct?
Correct. Yes. We've had some great players come through the program. But yeah, our lone senior this year is Pang, from in her 5th year from Thailand, was first team all conference last year, and just very excited to see what she can do this year.
That's awesome, man. That's awesome. Well, let's jump right into this, man. So, first question right off the back, man, I have to bring it up. Your all-time favorite athlete.
Yeah, really, it's a toughie. Honestly, I probably would have said Phil Mickelson. Definitely a year ago. And then the whole thing with LIV.
Yeah.
And, some of the stuff there. So not sure I'm quite as big of a fan. But it's always, definitely at least from a golf standpoint, the player I've really admired growing up and loved watching him play.
Yeah. Now when you're looking for, someone to model your game after, or maybe just, a professional, what do you look for in a player or a professional when you're looking to, model that philosophy or those values?
Well, I love how personable Mickelson has always been. But yet when it comes to playing the game, to me, at least in my, in my time, Tiger has been the one that, man, he just plays the game, so strategically smart.
Yeah.
That he puts it. Obviously he's had an unbelievable career, but he just seems to make better decisions than almost anyone else out there. And that's a big part of the reason why he's been so successful.
Yeah. Oh man. So let's dive into some of the meat, man. So you're a head coach right now at Youngstown State. You were a former student athlete. So we're going to jump around a little bit here today. And so what I would like you to do, take the listeners, on a journey a little bit about, your time as a student athlete and, how you got to where you are today.
Yeah, sounds good.
Yep, it's on you.
All right, you want me to start with it?
Yeah, man, go ahead.
All right. Well, it's been quite a few years now, but man, I just had an absolute blast playing college golf. And it was really in my 3rd year at a new golf coach. Really, he knew nothing about golf, but they hired him to be the assistant basketball coach. And it was Tim ended up being, it's been my mentor and really the whole reason I went into coaching.
Yeah.
Really got me thinking about it. And then really, it's been really an incredible journey. A year out of college, I was hired at Loyola of Chicago. As head coach of a D1 program at the age of 23. Tell you what, that was, looking back, I probably wasn't nearly as prepared for it as I thought. And it was just an unbelievable learning experience.
Yeah.
But after that, I realized I needed to grow quite a bit in some different areas, spent some time as an assistant golf professional. Ended up as the assistant at Cleveland State. A few years later, spent 4 years there, helping both the men and women That was a lot of fun. We had a lot of success there on the men's side. And then actually, I was out of coaching for about 2 years.
Yeah.
Just really, I've been doing a lot of traveling. My daughter was fairly young at the time, and just really decided there was an opportunity actually to work at a daycare
Okay.
full time, and took it to be able to be at home more. Knew I knew if God wanted me back in coaching, and door would open, and it spent like I said, maybe a year and a half, 2 years full time at the daycare, and then the position at YSU opened up, and was very fortunate that got the position, and this is my 10th year there now, and it's been a whole lot of fun.
Yeah. Oh, that's awesome, man. Now I didn't know about the daycare situation. We've had some many conversations, man. So I need you to what was that experience, man? And what did you take from that experience?
It really was a lot of fun. I think it was connected with our church.
Yeah.
And so I'd been pretty close to the pastor for a very long time. And actually, like when I was at Cleveland State, it was a part-time job. So I'd actually started working at the daycare, a little bit in the off season, got a nice little discount on my daughter's daycare.
Yeah.
And eventually there was an opportunity to be there full time, and really more, while I did work a lot in the classrooms filling in, it was more of an administrative role. And it really was a lot of fun, worked with some amazing people. And I'd say more than anything, just helped me grow as a leader.
Yeah.
In my time there. And like I said, we just worked with some great people, some amazing, families, employees. And, it was great to just be there. My daughter was there a lot, and just, have that little bit of extra time there.
Yeah.
Not be traveling on the road quite so much. But yeah, it was a little different detour than many coaches might take. But yeah, really excited to get back into it, and I've been coaching ever since.
Nice. So you mentioned that, of course, it was through your church, and it helped you become a better leader. Can you talk about maybe whether it's a piece of advice maybe from your pastor, or maybe an experience, or even just a day when you reflect back on that daycare that was, man, I really appreciate that experience, and like you said, something helped you become a better leader in your role as a coach. Do you have a moment that you can talk about?
Well, I mean, I think overall it was just we had in that case, we had kind of a board of directors. We had a supervisor that was above me, and then, quite a few employees that we were helping to manage and work with. And I think just the overall experience of, working with it all.
Yeah.
Understanding both, so many different aspects of it, having to have some really tough conversations and do some, make some tough decisions on the leadership side of things. And I think more than anything, I think one of the biggest challenges is so many times that as a leader that, even though we might have a lot of the information, in reason to why we're making a particular decision, sometimes it's not always possible to share all of that information with the people, whether it's my players, whether it's, our group of employees.
Right.
And, that was always challenging. And you hope to build that level of trust, that they have enough trust in you to respect the fact that whatever decision you are making, even though they might not understand it quite completely or why you might be making that, they know that, we have a little bit more information that we're working with, and, we're doing our best to lead and make the decisions that are best for the team or for the company.
Right. Oh man, that's good, man. Thank you for expanding on that a little bit. That you mentioned something, trust, and not having all the right information or all the information, and that's, I can only imagine what it's like to be a head coach, especially at at the Division I level, when the kids are just so competitive and you're juggling so many things. So that's awesome that you were able to take that from that daycare experience into your time as a coach. And so you mentioned, starting and getting into coaching really early, 23 years old. That's impressive. And so, looking back, and you're transitioning from student athlete to coach, right? What, describe to me those early stages of that transition. What were some of the early struggles that, you had?
Well, there were a lot of early struggles because really I had stayed on at Grove City and helped for a year after I graduated. And really, like, I already had great relationships with all those players. And we had a lot of great kids.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't want to say we had our bumps that year, but like I knew I was working with a great group. And then making the transition to Loyola, where just a new team, just a much different, some different attitudes, some different personalities. And, they were probably very skeptical of me.
Yeah.
Getting hired, coming in as young as I was. And like I said, I definitely made a lot of mistakes those first 2 years, and just kind of learning how to make that transition into a head coach and lead some different personalities than what I had worked with previously, and learning to build some of those relationships. So, I mean, over time, I think I got much better as coach. Those relationships got better, but very early on, it was definitely a major transition. Not to mention the fact that I was going from a Division III program up to Division I, where just everything, all the expectations, both, on team and also the players themselves, what they expect from a coach was so much different than the program I had come from.
Wow. So, you're looking back at that experience, you're in the transition phase, and you're getting over those hurdles, man. So we're all in some stage of transition, right? And, whether it's being new parents or new job, new city, new state, there might be someone listening to this podcast that maybe transitioning to a new college, especially with the transfer portal, right now. What advice would you give to maybe that young person that's in a stage of transition to help them kind of get through?
Well, I mean, I think the big thing is, so many times going into any new situation, I know, can be overwhelming. Just so many different challenges. You almost don't know where to begin. But I think the biggest thing is just investing the time to build some relationships.
Yeah.
Reaching out to, whether you're joining a new team, just going out of your way to, have some time, meet with, some of the other players. I think those are the things that are really going to help make that transition a whole lot better, and a whole lot smoother.
For sure. No, I 100% agree with that. And, I was actually having a conversation with a former teammate here on the show not too long ago. And we were talking about that transition, moving to different cities, and, how do you adjust to that new city? And you're absolutely right? You have to take time to invest in relationships. And, what does that mean? It's probably different for everyone. I was talking with someone that I'm trying to go to lunch at least once a week with someone new for my job. Well, that may not be your opportunity. Maybe it's just coffee. You know what I mean? It doesn't always have to be one way or other, but, take time to really invest in those relationships. So I 100% agree with you there. And so, I'm a former student athlete. You're a former student athlete. And, I am a huge advocate on looking back on those moments, the power of moments and what they do to us, how they shape us, how they shape the way we think, how they shape our values. So what I like to do is, looking back on your time at Grove City, do you have, one or two moments that you look back on that shaped who you are today?
It's hard to really like pinpoint like a moment or two. I think, the biggest thing to me was just the transition, the complete my first couple years. I had a coach that he didn't seem to care that much about our program.
Yeah.
It really showed in both, how he treated us, a lot of things. And then to have a coach that cared so much. And even though, again, he knew nothing about golf,
Yeah.
he poured everything he had into making our program the best it could be. And to me, like having the opportunity to play for a coach like that cared that much about both, who I was as a person and our program, that just had such a profound impact and made my last 2 years just so, even though our team wasn't nearly as good as my first couple years,
Yeah.
it made that experience so much better and really, frankly, inspired me to do what I'm doing today.
Okay. I was actually going to ask you that earlier is what was that inspiration? And so I'm glad that you shared that in terms of what that coach did to actually, inspire you to lead young people as a coach. So I'm happy that came back up. So I appreciate you sharing that. And so, before we switch gears here, man, I want to go back to, those first few years as a head coach, and whether it's a head coach or assistant coach, what did you learn about yourself during those early years?
I mean, I think first the biggest thing was that I had a lot to learn. I probably thought going into the job at Loyola, I felt pretty confident about who I was as a coach after 1 year helping out a Division III program, and I quickly realized that I had so much learning and growing to do after just spending some time at Loyola. So that was probably the biggest lesson. I think probably the other big lesson, and it's still an area, I feel like I still need to grow, is just, I think just both communicating better
Mm-hmm.
and also, having the strength and courage to have some really tough conversations, with players when necessary. That I probably avoided some of that, especially early on in my career. And, I still remember that, there was one particular player that first year that almost seemed to challenge everything. And then at the end of the year, we finally sat down, and not that like it was anything like real confrontational or anything like that, but like having that conversation with her,
Yeah.
like just improved the relationship and, the level of respect so much. And, it was a great lesson that, avoiding those, isn't going to help,
Yeah.
the team, the program. And, sometimes you got to be able to address situations when needed, to help move forward. And so many times it isn't as bad, as you think it might have been. And a lot of times things end up being so much better, after that conversation.
Right. That's huge. And you talked about growing in the aspect of growing to have those difficult conversations. I think we're all there, we don't do a great job of having those tough conversations. Even myself, I've personally tried to just having tough conversations with my mom, but it's taken work, it's taken courage, and so as a coach, because you're doing this daily, you're leading these young people, you're still working on it. You understand that you need to work on this area. Like, what have you done over the years to help build that courage of having those tough conversations when they're needed?
I think it's more than anything, it's just that experience year after year of having had a lot of those conversations, that it does get easier.
Yeah.
Over time. But I mean, I'd say it's still just an area of that I want to personally grow in.
Yeah.
I wish I mean, honestly, I wish I had a better way, or um, to really take some bigger steps forward
Right.
in that. But I know, as long as I hope to continue to take even those baby steps,
Baby steps.
because each one I take, I know I'm becoming more and more of the coach and leader, that I want to be, and that I feel like, God wants me to be.
That's good. That's good, man. Baby steps. And that's all that's needed. That's all that's needed, man. So let's switch gears a little bit. I know you're a man of faith, man, and you've been a sounding board for me over the years, the past 4 or 5 years that we were working together at YSU, and I truly miss those devotionals, man, that from the FCA, brother, because there were some good ones there in those mornings that really lifted me up, and so I do really miss that. So I want to switch gears a little bit, man. When did your faith journey? What did that look like at the beginning, and when did your faith journey start?
Well, I mean, I grew up in a Christian house, went to Catholic schools pretty much all through high school.
Yeah.
But really, I can't tell you exactly when I really started to have faith, but I know I probably went through probably 10, 11 years of private school, Catholic school, and can really say my faith was not very mature.
Yeah.
It really was until like college. Actually, a girl I was dating at the time really kind of challenged some of my, some of my thinking.
Yeah.
To really, I guess, explore it a whole lot more. And then really, I think as I got older and got more involved, in the church that I ended up working at later at the daycare,
Yeah.
it was really then that I think my faith really grew. Just through those years, probably into my early to mid 20s, just better understanding what my faith was all about, that I didn't have when I was a lot younger.
Right. Yeah, that's good, man. So I know you help out with the FCA, and for those who aren't familiar with the FCA, that's the Fellowship of Christian Athletes. And as an adult, as we would dive into those conversations, I just look back like, man, I wonder if some of these teachings would have made me a better athlete. And of course, you can always think of maybe this could have, maybe that would have made me a little bit better, and even maybe a better man. So how did you get involved with the FCA, and why has the FCA been so important to you?
Yeah, so I honestly don't even know if we had the FCA at Grove City. If we did, I mean, I honestly wasn't probably all that invested at the time,
Right.
In my faith to begin with. But it was a handful of years ago where I don't even know what prompted me to start looking, but always just looking for different ways to grow as a coach and leader, and came across their 3-dimensional coaching, their program, and I went through it and just absolutely loved it. And after finishing it, I ended up reaching out to the area rep, who's Bob Kimple, touch base with him. And then it's kind of gone from there, where I've become really good friends with Bob. And then just started just doing, it was an in-person devotional at one time at Youngstown State, and then kind of morphed into just a weekly devotional that I email out. But it's been, just a lot of fun, working with Bob and the FCA, and hopefully just, providing a little inspiration and, to some of our fellow coaches and staff, at YSU.
No, that's it, man. Shout out to Bob, man. Bob and his crew with the FCA, man. I know they're trying to get things up and running there in the Valley and Western PA. So hopefully all is well with him and his family. So, I mentioned the devotionals and, the impact that they would have. And you mentioned a little bit sharing those weekly with some of the coaches and staff. I'm sure the crew would back me up and saying, like, man, there was some good stuff in there some weeks, some really good, man. So can you talk to me about a recent devotion that you may have sent out to the crew, and, why that devotional maybe hit home a little bit more?
Well, as I was preparing for this, I had one in mind that I absolutely loved, that I was going to talk about, And then I read another one today. And like Dan Britton, who works for the FCA, he sends it out. I don't know if it's every 2 weeks or every month, but I can tell you his devotionals, wow, they just speak to me so greatly.
Yeah.
And the one today he talked about was just busyness, and
Uh-huh.
how like we've created a culture of just we're just always so busy.
Yeah.
And I know like I get caught up in it so much that I feel like if I'm not working, I'm falling behind. That it's almost like constant. And just he just talked in there about just the importance of just being quiet.
Yeah.
How many times, whether Jesus or throughout the Bible just talks about just being still, being quiet, hearing and listening for God.
Right.
And I just felt like, man, that was just something I really needed. It was such a great reminder, especially as we get into our season.
Yeah.
Things get a little bit crazier. And to me, it's so easy to sometimes neglect some of that quiet time, neglect some of the relationships, because I feel like I'm just so busy. I don't have time. And, and I know, we need the relationships, that time with God. We've got to put that stuff first. Because at the end of the day, that's the stuff that really matters.
Yeah.
So yeah, to me, it was just such a good reminder, as I'm starting the season and really getting into my quote unquote busy time.
Yeah.
That I needed to hear today.
So, again, I think I just felt like that the other week. I was like, man, I gotta keep going. I gotta keep going. I gotta keep pounding the phones. I feel like nothing's happening if I'm not pounding the phones. And it's like, oh, maybe I should just take a second, take a breather. What, or I guess, how can we do that? Just from your perspective as a coach and as a father, how can we start?
I mean, again, I'd say with baby steps. I think whether it's carving out some time in the morning, whether it's sometimes just putting the distractions away.
Yeah.
And make sure being fully present. I know even just I was driving in the car today to practice, and, just shut the radio off.
Yeah.
Just had a little bit of quiet time. I mean, I think so much of it's just dependent, on the person, but just finding like something to take one little step forward.
Yeah.
Even if it's 5 minutes a day, making that time and making it a priority, not letting something else come up,
right,
and block that away. Not always easy.
Yeah.
And we might not be successful at it every day, but I think when we make it a priority, and just continue to see it as we're just gonna take little steps.
Yeah.
Like it can just have a huge impact.
I 100% agree with that, man. Because I think sometimes we always want to swing for the fences, the home run, right? And we never focus on getting on first base, right? And it's just like that 5 minutes of silence matters, whether or not we think it matters, like that does, and so that I 100% wholeheartedly agree with that. And I need to put that into practice a little bit more, because I am hard on myself at times. So, I know, as we wrap up, man, I like to end every show the same way. And I'm not sure if you're familiar with the theme of giving out roses. And so pretty much what that is sharing a rose with somebody that's had an impact on your life, whether it's a mentor or a friend, someone that's really been, a pastor or someone that's really been influential on your journey. And so what I would like you to do now at this moment is share that rose with that one individual.
Well, this is kind of easy one for me. It goes back to my college coach, Tim Rice.
Yeah.
Just the impact he's had both in college and being a mentor for the last probably 20 years. And wow. I know this past year, sadly, he lost his wife.
Oh, man.
Who passed at the age, I believe she was early 50s.
Wow.
and still through it all, to hear his just faith and trust in God, and just the way he's honored,
Yeah.
like his wife, through it all, just continues to just be such a huge inspiration for me, in both, the person that I want to be, and also the spouse and the husband,
Yeah.
well, that I want to be to my wife.
Yeah. That's awesome, man. Shout out to all the coaches that do what they do daily, and the impact that they have on the lives of everyone through ages. I huge advocate of one of my former coaches. I love him to death, man. So it's always good to reflect on those people that have had an impact, and definitely prayers to him and his family and his loved ones. So thank you again for sharing that, man. So, Coach, I appreciate you, brother. It's always a pleasure when we get together.
Yeah, really enjoyed it, Andrew.
Awesome, man. Well, good luck to you this academic year, and wishing you and the ladies much success. And hopefully, I'll catch up with you soon.
Sounds good. Thank you.
Thank you so much for listening to Under the Wing. I hope you enjoyed the conversation. If you enjoyed today's show and you would like to support the podcast, tell a friend or two, share on social media, or leave a rating and review. You can follow me on Instagram at Under the Wing with Andrew. Again, thank you for listening, and I'll see you next time.